Hey everyone, and welcome to the fourth video in the series where I'm comparing the Apple TV 4K against the built-in apps on the LG C9 OLED, and the app for today will be Amazon Prime Video. So the previous time I tested this, I believe the test came, it would have been slightly different because of lockdown and restrictions that were put in place at that time. Now what I'm going to be doing is same as all the other tests, so I will be blurring out whatever's on screen, but what I will be pointing out is obviously the soundbar, so look out for Dolby Atmos on the soundbar and also in the top right hand corner as well. So what I'll do is, firstly we'll find some Dolby Atmos content. So I believe this whole series is in 4K as well as Dolby Atmos. I can't remember if the first episode was. Let's just go in and test it. In fact, it's not, it's just showing HDR, so let's test it. So let's click into it, and what do we get? Yeah, right, so we get HDR and we get Dolby Atmos. Now this is one of the things that Prime does that really annoys me. So the first time you click into something, if you click into it using the central clicker button, it doesn't actually start playing. It comes in and then you have to actually hit play in order to get it to play. That's some sort of bug that Prime Video has. So on the app itself, so something that I've been pointing out in the last few videos, so every time you pause it, it is dimming the screen. Now I don't believe they've actually got any Dolby Atmos content. So as you can see, it's gone into game mode just because the game mode was the last one that I actually used when I was in HDR. It would have been in a HDR title. But if I just come back into Cinema Home, I mean, you can see it's selected the HDR picture mode, but it's not obviously Dolby Vision content. But I'm not sure whether Prime actually has any Dolby Vision content. So in terms of Amazon Prime, it just doesn't look like they've got any Dolby Vision content. They seem to prefer HDR10 as opposed to Dolby Vision. So let's just come into Prime Video on the built-in app, and let me just check which. Okay, so it is in sports, because this is a built-in one. Will be in sports, so I'll just take that back over to Expert Bright Room, and for some reason those settings are actually different as well, so I'll have to take a look at that, but we're not really checking that in this particular video. So if we pull up search and just put in Jack Ryan, and we'll do exactly the same thing. So what we want to do is first season, and we'll go to play from beginning. So this is the 4K version, and what we're wanting to see is, yep, so we have got Dolby Atmos, and on this one we have got Dolby Vision. So that's strange. So with the built-in app, you're getting Dolby Vision on season 1 episode 8. Okay, so maybe it's because it's a different episode. So let me just come back. So for some reason that actually continued from episode 8. So let me come back to the Apple TV. I want to just be sure that the content is exactly the same. It possibly because I've played a different episode previously, it may have given me a different result. It'd be strange if part way through a series they actually changed what it's streaming in, but hey ho. Right, so episode 8, no, still HDR. So on the Apple TV 4K, they're only giving you HDR. They're not giving you Dolby Vision. So for Amazon Prime, and I think this is probably a similar result to what I actually got last time, where you're actually better off watching this through the built-in app, for the simple reason that firstly, being able to search is a lot easier with the Magic Remote. As I've said in the previous review that I did of Amazon Prime, I hate the app. The layout, the way you search, the way search results come up. Even if I just come back out onto this sort of, see, even this, just clicking home, I'm having to click so many times to come back home. If I take it home, even your recommendations, these lists, the way that they run out. So on Netflix, what would happen is, say for example you got to the end of this particular list, what would happen is it'd loop around, and on Amazon for some reason it literally just comes to an end. On this particular one, because this is obviously quite a lot, it might not show it, but I mean the whole layout of the app is just, it's not intuitive, it's not organized in such a way where you can find content. There are no trailers like you get on Netflix and other apps, so it's just a poorly designed app. And if Amazon really want to be taken seriously, they really need to improve this app. But anyway, that's a byproduct of this for this particular video. This video was meant to be just focusing on essentially the audio, the visual, video, and also the experience in terms of just general usage. In terms of the playback, in fact, one thing I did want to just quickly go back and check was what happens when right, where is the left off? So I want to just go back into that same episode that I had playing, and this is my point, like it takes so long to do anything. So I'll just come back in and I want to see what happens when I actually pause it. Right, so if I hit pause, oh, that's terrible. So there's no dimming of the screen at all, and instead of dimming the screen, it's actually brought up all of this extra. This is bright, that is as bright as any of the whites that you're going to get. It brings up all of this menu. Let me just see if I can get rid of this. Right, so play, pause. No, as soon as you hit pause it brings it up. So if you want to manually get rid of that, you can. Let's now see. So it's just same thing again, it's just ticked over 10 minutes of recording time, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave it and see what happens. Now bear in mind, I've had to actually manually click that to get rid of the on-screen kind of pop-ups. It's not dimmed the screen. So in fact, what I'll do is, if I come down and let's take it to a scene like this, and I'll pause it just here. So I want to see what happens if it's going to dim the screen. Now imagine if you've paused it on this particular screen and you've gone make yourself a drink or something like that. This bar right here, now if I click down on the remote, I can get rid of the on-screen kind of visuals. Yeah, what tends to happen is the on-screen, even though it's see-through, you're getting a little shadow in up to about this region here. So your top bit from about that much and your bottom bit about that much, with those on screen, are slightly dimmer. But it's not the fact that it's dimming the whole screen, it's literally just the overlay for those menu items. So now if I just get rid of those, so I don't want those on screen, this is now left here. And I don't even feel comfortable leaving this here, because that red is so vivid that that's one of those things where you leave it on news broadcasts and it basically burns in. So this is not, that's probably as bad as Netflix was in terms of protecting against burning. I know that's not their concern. The streaming providers, they're not bothered about that, not in one tiny little bit, but essentially we have to look out for ourselves as well. So if you're watching this and you've got an OLED TV, then what you want to be mindful of is the fact that the built-in app, and yeah, this was the one. So that when it first started playing, bearing in mind this is playing on my Apple TV right now, and right, so I'm just going to try and go back to the same part, just there. Right, so what happens when you pause? So yeah, so when you pause, straight away it dims the screen. Normally you wouldn't have this little overlay here. It's bringing that up because I've actually skipped in order to pause it. But say for example, if I leave that there, I've put the remote down now, that screen is actually dimmer. So I'm not sure how noticeable. I don't know if I'll be able to leave this particular scene in or not, but essentially there's a red bar just here, and what's happening is on the Apple TV, it's not dimming it by much, but it's at least dimming it down slightly. and what I can see is everything else is basically, because it's detecting that it's static, it's starting to dim it slightly, but it's not as aggressive as some of the other apps where it literally dims the whole screen very visibly. So whilst it's paused, you don't have to worry about burning. Obviously now, because this is on the Apple TV, I know after 2 minutes the screensaver is going to kick in, and I know on the LG app it will kick in after 2 minutes as well. But those 2 minutes, for example, if you pause it, you go off, I don't know, get popcorn and a drink or something, you come back and you realize you want another snack with it, so you play it, you pause it again, that's now 4 minutes where it could possibly be on screen. And basically this is, I'm talking from experience in terms of what my daughter does in the other room on the TCL TV, where she can sometimes have it paused quite often, several times in a row. On this particular TV with the built-in app, I wouldn't be comfortable doing that. On the Apple TV device, I'd be more than happy to leave it, because I know it's going to have the protection built in there. So from that side of things, obviously these videos have kind of taken a slightly different turn in terms of I've looked at a different aspect of protection for the OLED TVs in particular, and for the most part this is basically the exception when it comes to picture quality. So for some reason the Apple TV app, well, the Prime Video app on the 4K Apple TV hasn't been given permission for Dolby Vision, because every single time I'm trying it, it's giving me HDR10. But when I play those same episodes straight through the TV, I'm getting Dolby Vision. And I believe that was the same result previous time as well, where I was getting Dolby Vision through the LG C9, but I was actually getting HDR10 through the TV. Now I personally prefer Dolby Vision. Obviously it's not static, it's dynamic metadata, so basically each scene is changing, so it means that you don't get that thing that you get with HDR10 where the picture either looks too bright, or for the most part what most people would have experienced with HDR10 is the fact that it looks too dark. Not probably so much on OLED TVs, because they can generally deal with blacks better, but because of obviously dynamic tone mapping and everything, your peaks generally aren't going to be as bright as what they possibly could be. So out of the two, if you're looking for purely the best picture and video quality, I would say use the built-in app on the LG C9 for Prime Video. But if you're looking at it for a long-term kind of thing and you don't mind using HDR10, obviously you've got that option there as well. What I may actually do, I've just got another idea, is I may actually just run a comparison with the same setup. So obviously with this whole video I've recorded it in one cut, and then I basically make snips whilst I'm editing, and whilst I'm doing that I will actually lock the focus, ISO and everything like that, white balance. Now because of that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a test between the HDR version, so the HDR10 that you're getting on the 4K Apple TV, and then I'll do the same thing with the LG C9 version in Dolby Vision. And if I can get that past YouTube's content strikes, then I will post that video, and you guys can obviously make your mind up in terms of what you see as the difference. If you can notice a difference, if you can't notice a difference, obviously if I can get that video made, I'll get that made as soon as possible and post that up. But obviously this now concludes the 4 main apps, and for the most part Apple TV has actually been the better device to actually stream on for protection for the OLED panel, as well as obviously getting better connection and just general easier sound throughput as well. But with the Amazon Prime app, the Prime Video app, I'd probably have to make the suggestion that you actually use the LG C9 version instead of the 4K Apple TV, because it does seem to be getting better quality through that. So as always, obviously I will have more videos coming, so if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon so you're notified when I upload new videos, and until the next one, thank you very much for watching.